Silent running, it says I have 26 miles of electric use left.
That's more than the stats claim.
We'll see how that drops. It's supposed to be 21.
It's supposed to be 21, yeah.
All electric Wrangler 4xE Rubicon. It is all of the things, including 5,800 pounds. Purposely, we are not taking this off-road because guess what? This works exactly off-road like every other Rubicon on the planet. Everything underneath the electric running gear is exactly what you expect. Listen to the silence.
Listen to the silence.
It's exactly what you expect from a full-size Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4-door. It does all of the things, but this is a 4xE. We've never driven the 4xE before. We have Moabbed mini Rubicons. We have off-roaded like crazy.
Action verb?
I just used it that way. I Moabbed it.
We have Moabbed.
Mm-hmm. So we thought we'd do something completely different, and we are going to just drive this in EV mode because, again, it has more than 20 miles available, apparently. I have the regen braking on, and we're just going to take these big 33-inch knobby tires and drive electric, which feels like that shouldn't work, but here we are.
And yet,
silently driving a Wrangler.
And now for something completely different.
Yes.
Great cars, great roads, and all the reasons we love to drive. Road trips, comparisons, test drives, and podcasts. This is Everyday Driver.
We've driven the Jeep Cherokee 4xE,
yes,
but never the Wrangler Rubicon. This is available in Sahara 4xE or Rubicon 4xE. That is the only trim configuration in which you can get the two electric motors, 375 horsepower with 470 pound-feet of torque, which is exactly the same amount of torque. We think it's a calculated decision. We think there were meetings about this.
There's a memo.
The V8, the 392 V8, we think it's exactly the same for marketing purposes.
Well,
so they can sell it and say, well, you can get the same amount of torque, even though the 2-liter turbo engine doesn't have quite as much horsepower, but that's okay because torque is what you want off-road anyway, and here we are.
I'll go you one further. I think it was decided to detune this because an electric hybrid system, I bet you, could probably get them more than 470 pound-feet of torque. But because they have that 392 big Hemi V8, and you want to sell that, and this is Dodge we're talking about, Dodge and Jeep, etc., and it's the Hemi.
It's all the same.
The last thing you want to say is that the electric version has more torque. So I bet you money this system could have more torque if they wanted it to, but it has, to the pound-foot, exactly the same amount of torque.
It's not in the same ballpark
as the
exact number.
This has everything, including the $4,000 big panoramic roof that is one touch. By the way, I didn't try this, I'll be honest, but you hit one touch and it pulls the entire roof back. I'm not sure if you can stop it halfway, but that roof takes a while. It goes a long way back there.
It wants to come off.
It wants to come all the way off. That is a $4,000 ad. That's part of the reason this is a $78,000 Rubicon. Otherwise, look, it's got the same automatic 8-speed transmission. It has the 2-liter engine. So this is, I'm still all electric. Actually, this is still saying I have 22 miles. So we are so far, genuinely, I'm intrigued by the fact that so far this is exceeding what it claims in electric-only range. My point here is, obviously, the reason you buy a Jeep 4xE is not for its electric capability. But on the flip side, it could be. This is something you could drive on all of your errands and just be EV. And I'm bringing it up specifically because I actually saw in some of the press materials, they're bragging about the fact this is the best-selling plug-in electric vehicle in the US. What I find funny is that for a time when this was first released, everybody was going, is anybody going to buy this? But because of discounts available for the plug-in hybrid, there was a time period in which this was the cheapest way to buy a Rubicon. All the other Rubicons were more expensive because of discounts.
That time period has passed.
It has passed. But my point is, for a time period, they couldn't keep these on the lot because people were buying these as the cheapest way to buy a Rubicon, and they didn't care that it plugged in. Didn't care. I plugged it into a normal home wall socket last night when I got home, and by this morning, it was fully dead. By this morning, it had 26 miles available. The point I'm making here is, you legitimately could drive this for most of your daily errands and never get out of EV mode. I've done up to 50 miles an hour in EV. We're on back roads. It could be your electric commuter, which is an insane sentence for a Wrangler Rubicon. But I
Not
feel
a
like
huge commute, but yes.
no, but the point I'm making here is,
yes.
but normal people's errands and that kind of stuff, you could do a lot of what you need to do on all electric. I think about the way our life is here in Park City, and the reality is, my wife could drive this, and she likes Jeeps. All electric and rarely ever use the gas motor. I mean, she likes the gas motor, but the point is she wouldn't have to. Okay?
She does know a thing or two about Wranglers.
She does, and we'll have her make some comments.
Hi there. So this is Kate, Todd's wife. I have confiscated the Jeep. Guys are out of town. I grabbed some camera gear. Hopefully I'm not upside down. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, I thought I'd share my thoughts on the Jeep Wrangler with you guys. So this is a Rubicon. It's hybrid. That is about all I know as far as stats go. Okay, it has big tires. Big fan. And let's see, it's automatic, which I'm not a fan of. I think it should be manual transmission. But I learned something, that you don't do hybrids and manual transmission. It's one or the other. So I guess you got to pick. Because it's a hybrid, it's got a lot of get up and go, which is nice. It feels a lot quicker off the line than what I'm used to. Things I love about this one, it's a Rubicon, so it's nice and big. It's got all the luxury things. It's got the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, Apple CarPlay, you name it. It's got all the bells and whistles, which is fantastic. You do pay for those. It's a 4-door, so you got a lot more room in the back seat. I had a 2-door for years, and it's a great Jeep, but did not have a lot of room for the passengers in the back seat. But I do love it. I love how big and spacious it is. I love that I can see everything. It's got great visibility. Love the ride height. This seat has a lot of travel. I am a very short torsoed person, so I like to be able to get up really high, and this has a lot of great seat travel, so I love that. Now, I think the guys took this out the other day and did it all on battery, and, you know, I'm not doing that. I haven't plugged it in since they've been gone, so I'm just running it on gas. If I had my picks, this would be my son's first car. But I'm also not really in the business of putting him in cars that cost this much. Not for a first car. This one's got a really nice touch button. One of these buttons, I don't know which one, opens the top all the way back, really nice and easy, which is so much simpler than back in my day when I had to, you know, wrench the top down and snap it on, which is especially fun in a rainstorm. All right. It's really hard to do this and obey the laws of the road, just so you know.
I know this sounds ridiculous, and you're watching this as a Jeep person and going, why aren't you off-roading? But I really do want to land on the fact that I think the daily capability of this might be getting overlooked. If you want to drive a Jeep...
It's a good way of looking at it, definitely.
If you want to drive a Jeep,
Yeah.
there's a way a Jeep drives. This drives exactly like you think it does. You're correcting the steering, it rumbles, it grumbles on the tires, it's going to be great off-road. It's exactly what you think a Jeep is going to be. But if you are a person who is going to buy one of those and drive it daily and mostly use it for errands and that kind of stuff, and occasionally weekends and stuff 4x4, this can be an electric vehicle for you.
I think you're right, although if you've driven a Wrangler, it's so capable and so needs to be off-road at all times. I think it's like using a backhoe to dig the small holes for your tomato plants
Yes.
in your garden every spring.
Fair, yes.
It is such overkill just to use this as a commuter. If you do off-roading, legitimate rock crawling off-roading, then this is perfect, actually.
Of course, yeah.
If you like the way Jeeps drive and you just like the rumbly truck, raw, rugged nature of it, okay, I'll give that to you. But just as a commuter and trying to add in a few camping trips every year, I think you've gone to the backhoe with the tomato plants.
I like that.
Overkill. Yeah. It's too much. It's got everything. It's this big, heavy truck, and if you're only using it for its limited range, because it does have a limited range.
Of course, yes.
But there's so many other better commuters. If you just think of it
Totally.
as commuting and off-roading, no, the off-roading still has to take precedence here in my mind. Commuting for a short bit, because this does not have the level 3, the combined CCS type of charger.
Yes.
If you look at the door here, it's just the small level 1 or level 2. Good news, it does come with both cables in the rear. So you can choose, are you just plugging it into your house or a hotel or something like that for a quick charge, or do you actually have a 240 volt and you're going to level 2? That's great, and both cables do come with it, which is nice, but the quickest that this can charge is 2.5 hours, which is not really what people are used to if you're treating it like an EV. So I do appreciate that Jeep is exploring this, especially because I expect this to be beyond capable. You're right, we don't need to off-road it.
We know it is, because it's the exact same running gear.
Beyond capable, and you know what? It looks the part. It just looks cool, even in white. The graphics are cool. I do like how it looks, and setting the 4xe, the blue trim pieces, the tow hooks, everywhere you look, that does stand out a little bit.
I like the blue on the Rubicon versus the red on the Rubicon. I actually do like that. I wish this was in another color than white. Of course, it comes in lots of colors, but I do like the
new
blue
1941 color, which is olive military drab,
which of course just means green.
Pay homage to
one of the other many ways they have little Jeep notices all over there. We've got Gorilla for Gorilla Glass over here. We've got 1941 Willys over there. There's always little Easter eggs all over a Jeep, and of course those are here as well. We've got Apple CarPlay. We've got a combination digital and gauge dash. Again, I'm dealing with an all-electric situation if I'd like to. It has all the other things about a PHEV where I can hit e-save, which is their term for I'd like to use the electric later, please, and be on the gas motor
now.
You can use all of the above, and it takes off from the light. It really does. I actually think that when you use this with everything running, you're shocked by how much power it has because of that torque figure, and it does feel similar to the 392 that we drove and loved and rock crawled. If you want to see that video, we know it does all the same kind of stuff. The thing I think is interesting is driving it around silent would take some getting used to for me. It feels weird. It feels really weird to be in this big beast and to hear those tires rolling and there's no other noise at all.
All right, I got to try it out then.
Yeah, you got to.
Excited. Yes, use the OSGs. Jeep will always sell. The Wrangler will always sell.
You're right.
Of course, they need to continually update it with running gear, but that's what you're paying for here, because this is almost $79,000, and the instrument panel, the quality of materials, it suggests about a $50,000 or maybe $60,000 truck.
And that's you being generous because you know about the running gear.
Yes.
The interior of this is a $30,000 car, and it always has been and probably always will be.
I'd give it more than 30.
Okay, all right.
There's some nice materials here, and there's some quality switchgear. But this isn't an $80,000 truck. It doesn't feel like it.
I
so
agree.
You've got to really like the technology and like how it fits in your life. But there's so many specific buyers for this. There are so many people that do want the hybrid nature of it, that will take it off-roading, that will use it as it is intended. I really like what Jeep has done. I really think it's cool.
Well, also keep in mind,
I want them to keep going and proliferate so we get a longer range. We're down to, what, 18 miles here?
Okay, all right.
Electric?
But also think about this, though. When we drove that 392, which we both liked, because that was the motor that felt like it always should have been in a Jeep.
Right.
We drove that. That was a $100,000 version of a Rubicon. So,
which is also not a $100,000
agreed.
vehicle
Yeah.
in any way. Oh yeah, this is very strange.
Isn't it strange? I mean, it works, and it's no problem. It just feels really weird to me. It feels like the engine died. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just feels like he came over a quarter and the engine died. Like, oh, dang it. You know?
Okay, so we're in full regen mode, and something that I noticed while driving in combined hybrid mode is that you can have one pedal driving with a gas engine.
Yep.
And it took me by surprise. The engine's running, I see the tach, and I'm driving one pedal driving. It's very strange. I think you could get used to it.
It's sure.
Interesting and cool.
For sure. It just feels very weird initially, but it is something you should do. Also, I think you should go down here and get on the freeway, and we should see we do freeway speeds.
See if we can do freeway back?
Yeah.
I like that. I love Jeeps. This isn't for me, but this is for a lot of people. There's a lot of wind noise at speed. And when you're in EV only mode, the wind noise is only going to be magnified.
Yes,
I hope
for
you're
sure.
okay with
For
that.
sure, yep.
But it's very strange to be in this rough and tumble and rugged thing that screams noise, and yet you're driving along silently. I'm hearing more of the tires and the wind than I've ever heard.
It's just tires and
in a
wind,
Jeep.
which, I mean, like, tires and wind is what you hear in a Tesla. And always
Yeah,
have in
true,
a Tesla.
but here it's
of course,
magnified.
it's not as much as this because you're not rolling 33s, knobby 33s around anywhere, of course. But I really do think there are certainly buyers out there that have bought this car, that have bought it for everything but the electricity. And I hope, honestly, they are using it as an EV to help them.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
But you said it earlier, please don't buy this as an EV.
You can't look at this
You
as
got to
an EV.
buy it as I want a Rubicon, and that's going to happen no matter what. So why don't I get this one, which is better than the 4-cylinder? Because the 4-cylinder works, but the 4-cylinder you got to really make work. Cheaper than the V8. I'm trying to make a case here.
Okay.
Cheaper than the V8.
All right.
Without the personality. The personality of the V8 is the best. It is. It's the best personality for the Jeep.
And pay the most and
And you
enjoy
pay the most money on
most.
all the things. And I think it is the one that is most enjoyable. But you can get all of that power. You can get more daily economy, I guess is the word I'll go for. It still has all the usability when you are in the city and the stuff you need it to do in the city, which is not crush rocks. You just wanted to get you somewhere 5 minutes from the house.
But there's so many other better vehicles for just getting you somewhere that are so much more efficient.
But I don't think a
and
person...
not overkill. This feels like overkill everywhere I go.
It is.
Unless I just take off across that field.
It is,
Which I
but
want to do.
I agree
And
with
I
you.
know I can.
But the thing is, the person buying a Rubicon is buying it because they want that overkill and that feel. So if we're going to be buying that anyway, if we are that buyer, I think this is a trim that is worthwhile because it gives you options.
Yeah, it does. You know, I've been thinking about the hybrid powertrain and the longevity of it. And
There's a question.
Where we're at with technology. And I was just
Yeah.
scanning the Monroney before we started. This has an 8-year, 100,000-mile hybrid powertrain warranty. That means the Stellanterians are standing behind their product. I hope it only increases in range. But thinking of this, even though it is a PHEV, but thinking of it as a plug-in commuter, that's not its strong point.
No,
even though we're
no.
forcing it to do that, and it's staying steady on 16 miles of range here.
Okay.
It's staying steady. and
We'll saw through it on the freeway. That's why I'm
we
very
will.
curious about the freeway. Yeah.
It's very strange. I wonder if there's a speed limit where the gas engine just needs to kick on.
Probably.
I wonder if we find
And
that.
I'm also curious, if you go below 60, can we just stay in EV mode and saw our way home on the freeway? That'd be cool. This is a very interesting beast, and I actually like it more than I expected to because of how much power it has, and because I can now, for the first time ever, feel like I can see city daily use in a Jeep.
Weirdly, yes, even more so. But not many people know the foundation of the 4xe and where it started for the Wrangler, and that is to drive to Moab, to drive to your off-road location on the gas engine, shut it off, go electric only for the 20-mile trail, and you're in EV mode, you're silent off-road, you're rock crawling off-road, and only in electric mode, and then drive back home on the gas engine. That was
That was the gimmick. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it a gimmick.
the design brief, I guess.
I get why they did that, because it's an interesting thing to put in the design brief and to put in the marketing materials, but I think that's a gimmick, and I think that's why I wanted to do this. I think that's the reverse of
It's
how
gimmicky,
it should be used.
but it could be done. I mean,
could.
here,
Well,
we're forcing it to be a commuter. And
Yes. I'll tell you the thing that really scared me, though,
it doesn't really want to, even though it's doing it.
when they first announced this, there were press photos of chargers in the middle of rocks, in the middle of nowhere, and I thought, please
With a
don't
solar
do
panel.
that.
Yes.
Please don't make that. That sounds terrible, to put a charging station in the middle of pristine wilderness. I don't want that.
The car just shifted in EV mode. Did you feel that?
Yeah. Well, it only
just
has one transmission to work with.
shifted
Yep.
for me.
Exactly. Yep.
The electric noises that it's making is very strange.
Mm-hmm.
I want sound out of this, but I'm appreciating the EV only nature. The problem is, for $80,000, I still feel like this is just a baby step. For me to really take this seriously, I want 30 to 50 miles range out of this in EV-only mode, but that would mean a bigger battery and
even more weight,
more
cost.
And all of that stuff.
Look at you, you're doing 70.
Here we go. Here is 70 miles an hour in EV mode.
All right.
In the Wrangler.
And you're probably watching the EV range count down in real time.
We're at 14 miles range
Really?
now.
Okay.
We're still
we'll
good.
see what it does for the couple of miles worth of distance we're going to go.
I kind of want to go
freeway.
faster to see if I can find a threshold for the engine.
Yeah.
Because we know we can do it.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, 75 miles an hour now on the freeway, hanging out.
I'm surprised but impressed.
Mode.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, now the battery's getting sucked down.
Yeah.
But that's what it's for.
Of course, absolutely.
That means you could. The problem is the charging speed, because if we're going to take this seriously and do both, actually what we're talking about, I don't want to just do errands and then come home and have to wait 2.5 hours to charge.
I hear that, but I feel like I'm coming to this with the other use case because of the fact that we have that first-gen plug-in hybrid Cayenne that only has 13 miles of electric range. So it's
So this
far
is
less
a
than this.
giant step in
This
comparison
feels
to
a
that,
step up from what we have. And the point that I'm making is the way that my wife uses it on a random weekday, it has enough range for her to go do errands and comes back. She goes anywhere legitimate, of course it doesn't. But I could see this as a use case like that, and I have seen, even when it has a small amount of range, how that can help you in total gas mileage and in occasionally you're running an EV only. And this did freeway.
It did freeway at 75. We'll call it 75. We're down to 11 miles of range.
Yeah, 11. Okay, so you burned through 5 miles of range in what I know to be 1.5 miles of freeway. Just
because
letting you know.
It weighs almost 6,000 pounds.
And it's a brick through the air.
Yes.
Exactly right, which is what I expected. It's what I expected entirely. Yep.
This thing is cool. If you're considering a Rubicon, you've got to take a look at this, but you have to justify your need, because if you don't have the EV need,
I think it's the Rubicon need you need to debate, but that's a separate thing.
The Rubicon, you mean just the capability itself?
Do you have a need for this at all? Let alone whether then you can pick your trim. If you want the manual, which my wife would get the V6 manual,
but then,
do you want the V8 because it has all the personality? Do you want the 4-cylinder to save you some money? Because that's how you get a $50,000 Rubicon is the 4-cylinder.
Yes, I would say get the 2-liter, the 4-cylinder. That is the better buy. But if we're going to talk about need and justifying this, then we have to talk about all the ranges and the Urises and all the things you don't actually need that have tons of power that you'll never use.
Yes.
I just feel like Jeep owners feel like they're going to use it, and I think they will more so than any other vehicle. So maybe
you may be right.
Maybe that does justify.
Maybe right. Whatever trim you'd like for your Rubicon, you can find it right now on Autotempest.com. Autotempest.com/everyday is how you get to them.
I'm going to drive over the curb just because I can. Oops.
Yes. Now you're a Jeep driver.
I we're
going to park on a curb later just for the heck of it. We're just going to park with one wheel cocked up because that's what we're going to do.
I didn't see a curb. I didn't feel anything.
You can do all the kind of searches you want for any kind of Jeep, going backwards, going forwards, any of the engines, any of the transmissions. You can find it on Autotempest.com right now. All the cars, one search.
10 miles left, everybody. Where should we go? Let's keep going. Not bad.
You know what? I think this justifies its existence more than I expected it to.
I think
That's
you're right.
my big thing.
I think you're right. Look at that.
This is making me want to sell my Cayenne and buy a Jeep. Sadly, I think this Jeep cost more than my Cayenne did brand new, and I didn't buy it brand new, so unfortunately, this one's not in the budget, but I wish it was.